Have you ever wondered how your city just works? Or, doesn't? Well, today we're pulling back the curtain on the secret science that predicts and manages your daily commute, from the traffic jams you can't stand to the bus that magically shows up on time. Let's get into it.
I mean, seriously, you're sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic, the train is absolutely packed, the bus is nowhere to be seen. It just feels like this random, unpredictable mess, right? Yeah, we've all been there. But what if I told you that underneath all that chaos, there's actually an order to it all? City planners have a pretty amazing way of making sense of the madness, and believe it or not, the most important piece of their entire puzzle is you.
See, planners use this powerful method called the four-stage model. You can think of it like a crystal ball for traffic. It helps them predict how many trips are going to happen, where people are going, and how they're going to get there. But here's the catch. That crystal ball is completely useless without its fuel, and that fuel is data. Lots and lots of data.
So, where do they even begin with a task that huge? Well, before you can count a single car or even one bus rider, you have to define the world you're measuring. First things first, you got to draw the map.
This whole process really happens in three main steps. First off, they define the study area, making sure to include every single place that could be affected by, say, a new highway. Then they draw what's called a cordon line, which is just a fancy term for an official boundary. And finally, they take that huge map and chop it up into smaller, bite-sized pieces called zones. Okay, so why bother making these zones so small? It's all about accuracy. When a zone is small and similar, like it's just one neighborhood or just one office park, planners can make a pretty safe bet that the people and activities inside are all kind of the same. That one simple assumption makes their predictions way, way more reliable.
All right, our map is drawn, the zones are set. Now it's time to actually fill it in. To bring their model to life, planners need 4 key ingredients. Let's break down exactly what they're looking for.
First up is socioeconomic data. This is all about the people living in those zones. How many people are in their family? How much money do they make? And, this one is super important, how many cars do they own? This info tells the model whether a family is more likely to be hopping in a car or waiting for the bus.
Second, we have travel surveys. Now, this is the real heart of the whole operation. This data gets into the nitty-gritty of the actual trips people make. Where did you start? Where did you end up? Why were you going there? Work, shopping, school, and how did you get there? Did you drive, take the train, or just walk? Every single one of those details is crucial. Third on our list is land use data. Basically, what's the personality of each zone we drew? Is it a sleepy residential neighborhood full of houses? Is it a bustling commercial district with offices and shops? Or is it an industrial area with factories? This is how the model knows where trips are likely to start in the morning and where they're going to end up. And finally, number 4 is network data. This is basically an inventory of the transportation system itself, the physical grid that everything moves on. Planners need to know about every single road, every bus route, all the train lines, and even how long the traffic lights stay red. Now, out of all those data types, the most important stuff, that travel survey data we talked about, comes from one main source, the household interview. Yep, to understand how a whole city moves, you have to start by knocking on the door, figuratively speaking. And here's where it gets really amazing. You don't have to talk to everyone. It's impossible. But get this. For a huge city with over 1 million people, a carefully chosen, totally random sample of just 1% of households can give you enough information to accurately represent how the entire city travels. It's the power of statistics, and it's pretty incredible. So what exactly are they asking in these surveys? Well, it really boils down to 3 main things. They ask about your household in general, like how many cars you have. They ask about you personally, your age, if you have a license, and then they ask for a detailed diary of all the trips you made yesterday, from start to finish. So how do they get these answers? Well, the old school way is a face-to-face interview. You get amazing detailed information, but, it can feel a little intrusive. The other main options are calling on the phone or sending a survey in the mail. These are way less personal, but it means the instructions have to be crystal clear because there's nobody there to help you fill it out. Okay, so the surveys are all collective, and this mountain of raw data starts pouring in. The problem? It's a mess. It is full of mistakes, missing pieces, and answers that just don't make sense. So before it can be used for anything, it needs a serious cleanup. It needs to be polished. This polishing is basically a 3-step process. First is data correction, where they go in and fix all the obvious errors. Second is sample expansion. That's where they scale up the small survey sample to represent the whole city.
And the last step is data validation, which is just one final sanity check to make sure everything looks right.
And the kind of errors they have to fix can be really interesting. For example, maybe the survey shows an average family has 3.5 people, but the official census says it's 2.9. That has to be fixed. Or people who travel a ton are often too busy to fill out a survey, which can skew the data. And a super common one? People always remember their trip to work, but they forget to mention they stopped for milk on the way home. This brings us to a really cool concept called the expansion factor. This is the piece of math that makes this whole thing work. It's basically a special multiplier that lets them take the travel habits from, say, 50 households they surveyed in a zone, and then scale it up to perfectly represent all 5,000 households that actually live there. And then we get to the final check, validation. This is the last line of defense against bad data. The analysts run checks for things that are just impossible, like someone claiming to be a 150-year-old driver. They also check for things that don't make logical sense, like a 15-year-old who says they have a driver's license. It's this super careful, detailed checking that makes the final data something you can actually trust. So why does all of this meticulous work matter? Because every single piece of that cleaned, polished data helps build what you could call a digital twin of the city. It's like a video game simulation of our world, a sandbox where planners can test out huge ideas, like a new subway line or a new stadium, and see what happens to traffic before a single dollar is spent or a single shovel hits the dirt. It is an incredibly complicated process, all just to build a virtual city that helps us manage the real one we all live in. So that leaves me with one last thought for you. If you were the planner in charge, if you had this powerful tool at your fingertips, what's the one question you'd ask everyone that you think could help fix transportation in your city? Thanks for tuning in.